questions and stuff, voice access. But anyway, let's take a look at some of the homework that people have done and other things. We are live on Twitch now, by the way. So, should be able to see this. There we go, there's a walk. Make sure these are .mov files, by the way, so I can bring them into Harmony. There we go. Yeah, I'd seen this one. This was a study of Shaggy Walk. It's a pretty nice study. This is an attempt at a turnaround. Don't know if I can get to that one, because turnarounds are pretty tricky and time consuming to do demos of. That one's a character turning around. A little simple kind of bouncing head thing. I'll try to go for the ones that I think would be the best to show demos of. I think this one has dialogue to it. I think that's a pretty good start. That's a good study. You can dig more into it too. This one, I have some feedback I can definitely give. There you go. Another study. This is off the, I think this is a traceback on the live action, right? That one's a good study though. It's like, I know, the only thing that's bothering me about it is, and I know you did this on purpose because I told people to ignore, like, the tilt of the hips and stuff, is because it's a realistic person, the fact that his hips are not tilting up and down with the walk is, makes it look more stiff than it should be, because it's a realistic person. But that's okay for the purposes of that exercise. I would say that's a successful study. Did you feel like you learned quite a bit from it? Oh, and the study of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo right here is actually something that we're going to be covering today. You see that little bounce that he's doing there? And just in general, like, everything from his posture to the way he kind of bounces up and down when he walks is examples of, like, an attitude walk. It tells something about the character. A little bit maybe about their emotional state a bit sometimes too. But Shaggy's just like kind of a laid-back dude who's maybe got some kind of music about him. I mean, he's like, he would be big into like 70s psychedelic music or whatever. So he's an easygoing kind of hippie guy. And that's why his walk looks the way it does. So let's see here. What could I probably critique? Probably this one to start with. Look at that first. Kale Bright. Can you also post the other thing that you did that wasn't a walk? Yeah, there it is. I'll download that too. Let's see. I'll yank these as well. Let's see. We can probably do a demo of this head turn. This thing's pretty herky-jerky. This one I can't really give too much feedback on because it's not an MOV file mainly. Also, there's not a lot going on with it. I might touch on it, but I don't know. I don't think I'll do a draw over demo of it today, but hold on to this maybe for when we're going to do dialogue stuff. We are going to be getting into dialogue scenes. So anyway, our goal for today is I'm going to evaluate people's walk cycles and give critique and feedback. I'll do a little demo using of key poses of this character right here, because this character's back legs are basically the back legs of a four-legged animal, like this. Like if this character could basically be converted into an actual deer or four-legged animal. So adding the front portion of their body on, basically. And so I'll bring that up real quick. Let's see. Walks Richard. So Richard Williams actually covers four-legged walks in this animated survival kit. There's whole pages of them on like dog and horse and cat walks and stuff. He goes over how like the joints of the shoulders and the shoulder blades work on the dog in this one, for example. There's one particular page I'm going to see if I can try to find, which really will help you wrap your head around how four-legged walks work. Let's see if I can find it through Google image search. But it's a, here we go. Yeah, this is it right here. So it's helpful to think of four-legged animal walks, and especially on a horse in this case, as like, there's like ostrich legs for the back, like the kind of digigrade things where like, if this were a person, like their knee would be about here, and that's like just a really, really long foot right there, and that's the ankle of that foot. So this is like the toe, like the back legs of it's like a distorted, the back legs of animals like this are like distorted versions of human legs. Like that's the foot, that's the ankle, the knee is actually there. About like that. To show what I mean, I'll bring up the skeleton of a horse. There's a probably better, shows it better off in one of the ones where the horse is actually moving, or in a moving pose. So as you can see, the way that the front legs on the horse work is you have the shoulder blades that actually wrap up around the torso like that, and like right up there in the front of the chest. Then like the equivalent of like what would be your bicep on a horse or an animal like this is like really close to the chest, like that. And this is actually like the hand. This is actually the palm of the hand. What would be the palm of the hand? And these are this is the horse's hoof is essentially one, like almost finger, basically. So you see, that's like an elbow right there. That's a forearm. That is essentially the joint of. And you can see like metacarpals and stuff that would be like part of the hand, the complicated hand bone on a human, are at the base of this, and these are like glorified fingers almost. Like that's a palm right there. So it's a little bit different on a dog. Dog bone anatomy. So you can think of a dog's paw on the forelimbs and of course the back limbs as being like the front part of your palm. You can even press this like on your desk. Like the front, if you press the front part of your palm and lift your wrist up, that's basically the foot of a dog. Or like the ball of your foot right there. Like that's the bottom of your foot. That's like the bottom of your palm right there, if your limbs were distorted into the shape of a dog's. Anyway, so on the back legs of the horse, you can see there's the pelvis right there. Then you get the knee joint that's like right up in there, and it's usually kind of obscured. As you can see how Richard Williams simplified it by like the shape of the skin and this muscle that's over there. And then, so this is like the knee. That's like the kneecap and the knee joint right there. And then down over here is basically the ankle and the foot and so on. So that's basically what you're looking at when you look at animal legs like that. There's exceptions, of course. Bears actually have put their whole paw down, almost kind of like if they were a four-legged human walking on the like the full bottoms of their feet, for example. But most four-legged animals kind of have the same principles of how their legs work. So you can think of them. You can think of a four-legged animal walk as being the front end works more or less like a human's legs would, and the back legs work more like an ostrich's would. And Richard Williams breaks it down a bit here for how the front and the back legs work. And making a four-legged walk is ridiculously complicated because it has two ups and downs on the different parts of the body that are moving at different rates and stuff. He's showing here how you would you'd animate them separately, basically, but in like conjunction and timing with each other, so they work together. Mind you, I'm not going to have people necessarily. I'm not going to necessarily assign a four-legged walk this week. I'm just showing people how four-legged walks work, because this character that I'm making, the way their legs work are similar to the back legs on like a horse or whatever. But if you want to try and you have a copy of Animator's Survival Kit or something else you can use to try this out this week, you're welcome to. And I may actually do a real full demo of this next week. So yeah, looks like we got a couple things in Google image search that popped up that might be interesting. Some attempts at animal walks by various people. Some more Richard Williams stuff here. But yeah, now we'll get into attitude walks and front walk. Richard Williams. So first I'm going to talk about front pose walks. And I may do a demo of a front pose walk today. But I first want to at least touch on it. But a major thing that I've been trying to get people to maybe try to avoid in their profile walks right now is the tilt of the shoulders and the hips. And you can actually kind of see someone was doing that basically, like in order to not overcomplicate their attempt at an exercise like this. I told people who were like doing, not really be too concerned with the tilt of the hips. But that said, this person, I think from some feedback I gave them in the middle of the week, they might have adjusted this upper area here to be more of an arm back and forth swing of the shoulders, so it does actually look like the top of the body is swinging a bit. There's some boiling going around with the neck, with like the top of the rib cage there, it looks like, but the upper body is working for sure. Literally for this, like all you would need to do is like maybe like adjust at certain points, like how high this thigh is connecting up in here slightly, and then like lower and raise this circle for the side of the buttock. And if in the reference you can, at certain points you can kind of see like the front of the pelvis or the back, you can do that too. I think on the shaggy walk there was some of that going on, but let me take a look. So it's really simplified, but because it's so simplified, like it feels like it's just a box that they drew in for the study here, but it has that feeling to it, that he's kind of shifting his hips a bit. And there's a center line right here on the torso that kind of reinforces that. Yep, they're doing it. Look at that, you can see the spine going back into the buttocks there. So even though they didn't drive the side planes of that cube for the pelvis, it still feels like he's kind of turning a bit. I think there might be something going wrong here, but it looks like it feels right to me. It's a good study, for sure. I would recommend definitely doing studies like that of existing animation walks, for sure. And then maybe like once you kind of feel like you understand a bit, try modifying it. I would maybe even like take the shaggy walk and put your own character on it or something. just to see what happens. So this right here, I actually want to do a draw over demo of this. So there, this is the volumes in this aren't really consistent, but it has good feeling to it and good timing to it. Unfortunately, it's also committing an animator sin known as twinning, which is when things move in parallel with each other. It's a good principle to try to avoid twinning, but not always. That's the thing about principles. Like, principles are not hard, fast rules. They are meant to be, like, broken when you understand why you're breaking them. They're mostly rules of thumb. So, like, there's lots of times when it's okay to twin. In this case, though, it doesn't feel as natural as it could, and I think it could be slightly improved by maybe favoring one hand over the other. And one hand arrives here very slightly sooner than the other one. Like, I would personally think that I would want this hand to be the dominant hand that kind of is very slightly ahead of that hand in its action. So that means that, like, when their hands go out like this, and I see you did an overshoot here on purpose, which actually kind of helps it. Yeah, see, there's an overshoot, and then it kind of goes back a bit and settles. Like, you could have this hand come out sooner, and then this hand, like, held back a frame. Like, it's a kind of a midpoint pose where it's kind of with the angle of the arm would maybe about like right here. So we'll go over that one later, and I'll do maybe a draw over to show you what I mean, and maybe we'll try to see if we can strengthen that. We might not even you might be able to even get away with just doing that and not have to do anything else in it, but we'll see. I'm not like too worried about getting you to do consistent volumes on this, because even though it's kind of mushy and stuff, I kind of like how charming it is, so I don't really want to kind of mess with it as it is right now. All I would say is that to practice more consistent volume control on the future stuff that you do, that's all. But we'll see. Little pixel art animation. This one I might be able to do something with. The whole bottom part of it gets hard to see. So I do like the overshoot and the secondary action on this. But but his silhouette is hard. It's hard for me to read what this character is doing. It looks like they kind of splatted into a blob. I don't know what the pose is supposed to look like, or what the pose is supposed to be. There can probably, maybe you could add like a little gap right here to kind of show that this is the arm a little bit more. Maybe like remove that pixel or something. Like, are they supposed to be laying belly flat on the ground? Or are they supposed to be kind of... It looks like they're kind of like doing... It looks like they're kind of like stretching up their body, and they're held up very slightly by their arms. Like, it looks like the arm's going this way.
I think that's why I made that. It's very...
Yeah, maybe just try removing that pixel and see how it looks.
Alright, I'm gonna try.
Like, you can even, like... Let's see here. Like, you wouldn't remove anything there, but it would be removed by here or so.
Which pixel is it?
It's the one just under this right here. Just remove that pixel. It might work. Yeah. Pixel animation is like animating with a mosaic, and you have to like think of really abstract ways to make something read.
Having a really complicated character just gets...
Yeah. This one's going a little bit too fast. But it seems like a fun exercise. I would slow it down maybe by half. Alright, so let me grab one of these to do a demo of real quick. Let me get Harmony up and running. First I'm going to save this so that I can bring this into Harmony later. Alrighty. Oh, and make sure you get in the Twitch channel, by the way, because I'm going to be doing some monitor multitasking here during the stream. And I can only stream one monitor. Alright, so let me see here. I'll do a demo of that stuff, but first maybe want to touch on attitude walks and frontal walks. So there's this handy page that gets people introduced to how walks work from the front. And if you understand how the walks work from the front, you can understand how they work in profile a little bit better too. So what he's describing here is like this is a pretty extreme like shoulder and hip tilt opposing each other with each step as the arms swing forward and backward and cross over the body in this case. Like, you don't necessarily have to do this, like the arms can just like come up in front here or something, but the shoulders would generally kind of tilt a bit and oppose the hips to some degree. But it works basically the same way as a profile walk does. There's like a passing position, there's the contact poses, and the ups and the downs. But you're looking at it straight on. So you have to think of like as you've almost spun the character around to be viewed from the front. There's another helpful page that shows this off in a more realistic character. This would be handy if you're doing live action reference. Right here. Like the contact, the down, the passing position up, the contact, the down, the passing position up. Looks like they combine the passing position with the up for this particular study of a realistic human. But it follows the same principles, and you can see that this person is kind of swaying, so there are certain points when like the hips and the shoulders are kind of parallel with each other a little bit, like on the down here. But since this person is walking asymmetrically, because they're a real person, they're not and they're being referenced from live footage, like their walk is a little bit imperfect and irregular, so the shoulders are more straight here, the hips are tilted, hips and buttocks are tilted that way there. And here's an exaggerated weight shift formula for like a character that has like kind of a center of mass right here, and it's got using the opposing action. Like this is the more simplified and pushed and exaggerated version of what's happening here with a realistic figure. Yeah, someone was asking about why people who are joining the channel are now on mute. I had to set it because we had an issue with some voice trolls earlier today. So I just want to take preemptive measures in the class to make sure they don't just try to disrupt the class in voice chat. We will probably open up stuff for a Q&A later or something. When Q&A opens up, you will leave and join the voice channel. Alright, so I'll go over in Harmony real quick. go over to Harmony real quick and set up a scene. Alright, first things first, we establish a ground plane that I'm going to be using on other walk demos I do. I'll probably like adjust the walks that people give me so that they are right on this ground plane. So maybe make another peg here. And I'll make another drawing layer preemptively. Alright. So first off, I'm gonna maybe do a straight on walk demo real quick of just like the poses that we need, generally speaking. There we go. All right. So I'm going to be using the Richard Williams walk as a model, and I will put that on screen in the in a dual screen setup here. I'm going to be mainly using this guy with the shifting weight here as my point of reference. So I will copy image. So I'm going to set up the multi-monitor now. I think that works pretty good. Alrighty, let's get started on this. Let's loosen up a bit and just import this, put it back over here. Okay, so same as any other walk, we need to establish the contacts, the passing positions, and the ups and the downs for this. In this case, for this particular thing, Richard Williams just put the passing positions on it, so we'll have to create our own. So first off, I'm going to establish the contact pose. Putting another version up this over near me so I can see it a little easier. Alright, so for this particular contact pose, the mass of the body is like pretty much straight on for how Richard Williams did it. We got this limb coming out in front here, front of the gut. Then we've got this limb going back over here. And we'll probably just like throw a parallel line there. I'll shade the limbs that are behind the body in black. Okay, now we can literally just copy paste this. And make that our second contact pose. Just reverse it. Maybe scoot it a bit so it's more in the center here. So now that we got this, we can start to establish the first passing pose. And it'll be the same deal when I create this passing pose from Richard Williams reference, I just flip it and it'll make a second passing pose. I'll put this on 8, and then maybe we can see about designing the ups and the downs for this. So it's going to be the passing position is going to be slightly up and over to the side here, because his center of mass is shifting to the right from the center point here. Like so. It pushed out to the right like that. And include the angles that he has on the gut here. The pit of the crotch would be about here-ish. Maybe push this a little bit more. About out here. His heel comes up like right in the reference to right up to the center line here. And his back leg is lifting off the ground. It's about parallel with the center line here for the side of the thigh. Move the foot down there. His head grew up in size a little bit, so I'll maybe shrink that, but I want about the same height. So he's actually got a center line on his body. Maybe we'll use some black to define that real quick. Alright, so I'll check Discord real quick, or Twitch stream, Twitch chat. Just want to see if anyone has any additional questions. Alright, okay, good. So how have your walks all been coming along? Have you been keeping up with the homework, folks? Yeah, let's try. I want to get like as many people to get walk cycles together as for far along as they possibly can. Next week, we're gonna try to compile them into like a student film, basically. It's like a bunch of our character walks edited together, or maybe walking together in profile with each other. Head size is still looking a little bit big here. Maybe I'll just bring up this head size a little bit. Well, no. I'll shrink it a bit. So we got this. And we just place that and reverse it. Now we got the 4 drawings of the Richard Williams walk. So I'm going to put this on 8s to see how it looks. Which means that these would probably be extended about 2 more frames, I think. I know. Alright. It's going a little fast, so maybe extend this a bit. It's at about 2 frames to each of them. Yeah, I kind of like how that feels. Although I didn't adjust the other of the 2 poses to be closer to the center line here. So that might have been what's throwing me off a bit. So I'll scoot this over to the left. But the timing seems right, it's just this other pose was off where it's supposed to be. There we go. So you can see from the Richard Williams thing here, you can see how like that's the center of mass here. It feels like this this is like a crude study, but it feels even in this crude study like the character has a shifting sense of weight back and forth across the center line here. Someone's asking, are we supposed to do the study now? You can if you want, but however you want to do it. If you wanted to follow along and try doing the study from the page right now, you can. Or you can keep watching and see how I'm going to do this. So I'm not sure if I want to do like ups and downs on this. I think for the purposes of understanding this principle, I think that's as far along as we want to take doing that. But I'm thinking we might want to do a quick rotoscope draw over of this guy to see how he looks when he's moving. I'm very intrigued by this page, so let's get rid of that. Let's move this guy down here. Maybe move this on top of that. So I'm going to try to keep things about at the same height. I'm just going to use the lines as a guideline. I'm not going to fully draw him out, because I just want to see what happens and how it moves when I tried drawing it how Richard Williams had it here, to see if there's anything we can glean from his live action study. So I'll even color code it. So like if you notice, this character is actually walking away from us into the background there. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have the character walking in place as if the camera's following him. So I'm going to try to keep the lines roughly about where they should be if the character was not changing in size or moving away. So with that, then the down becomes the shifts of weight. Maybe I should do a center line real quick, like this. I'm just going to get kind of a stick figure in place here to kind of get the general gist of the body going. Like that. Head. That's all we need for this. Trying maybe not to overcomplicate it. Potato feet. So I'm just trying to get the motion here. I'm not worried too much about doing a realistic figure for this purposes of this study. So on this one, his body shifts over to the right. His hips, I think the hips tilt slightly to the right too, a bit. Something about like this. This is the down, so his head would be down. And his body would probably be down a bit too. Scoot that a bit. His elbow's going to be more up towards us. So his foot's lifting off the ground. I'm going to try to imply that with some of the angles that I'm picking here. It's like the bottom of the foot there. The other foot is supposed to be moving towards us if he's walking in place, so... Actually, no, wait. That was the contact. Passing position means that this leg is going to be... the down is going to mean that this leg is bending forward. A bit. With the knee going down and the heel down a little bit further. I'm not too worried about perfection here. I just want to understand mainly the tilts going on. So this arm is going to be way down here. Let's get more of a weight shift kind of feeling here. Like this, and then so down's like that, and then the passing position is more like this. Just kind of blow through this now. And the shoulders are pretty parallel here for the contact, where he's coming down a little bit more. And the weight's kind of shifting over to the left, I think. Something like this. Shoulders are fairly parallel, but tilted slightly. Hips are a little more like this. So the foot would be all the way back here, a good ways. It's making contact with this front foot here. And then he does an unusual thing of like straightening his shoulders a bit for the down. Because this is a realistic human walk, not a designed cartoon walk. Of course he's going down, so this is going to be down a bit. But the down also means that his body weight is going to be shifting over to the left quite a bit. Maybe push that just a little. So he's bending the leg forward here, then by the knee. The last one was the contact pose, I think. Yeah. Going to be some weird things going on with this, but that's okay. And maybe I'll just copy paste the first contact pose on the end here. Before I add the passing position. Slightly up, and the tilt of the hips on the passing position is going to be counterposed again. So more like this. Alright. Let's see how this looks when I add 4 frames each to each of them. There we go. So it doesn't look too far off the mark from like a realistic walk. Like he's meant to be swaying a little bit too far to the sides, like he's kind of drunk or like he's gonna fall over. But generally, like the the tilt of the hips and the shoulders feels a little bit more naturalistic, and even how I bent the legs kind of works a bit. Like I was trying to imply what direction they were going, even though they're like stick figure legs. So yeah, it kind of works. I wonder what happened there. Yeah, I strongly recommend doing what I did here with the Richard Williams thing. So if there's something you want to understand and see how it looks when you try animating it yourself or problem solve it a bit, kind of like what I did, sort of adapting those realistic pictures into understand the principle of what's happening in them. You should definitely do it. It's an excellent idea. You'll like learn bits and pieces of things from doing basically what I did here, with the Richard Williams exercises. Like this one would be a less clean kind of abstract-y study because he doesn't give a complete information of this, because this is a character that's walking away from us, that's not walking in place on a cycle. And I adapted the same idea to this for just kind of like to see how it would look. So I'd say that's a successful study from Richard Williams. It wasn't intended to be perfect. I just wanted to see what would happen if I tried adapting the live action tilts that he was referencing. And conversely, this other little study was also a successful verbatim copy study of Richard Williams, with our little weighty center of mass guy, which more in-betweens could be added to him, in-betweens and breakdowns could be added to him, but it might not be totally necessary. Yeah, alright, so now that we've done this, I'm going to move on to doing some critique demos of classwork. So let's let's see what we got in the Discord chat. I've downloaded some of them. Let's see, we got our little chicken guy here. I think, did you correct the pixel thing there? Give me a move, well, give me a move file so I can, like, see the whole thing, if you do fix that. There might be something else you can add to it to further reinforce that on the way down here.
I did fix it. You fixed it.
Okay, yeah, it's hard to tell because it's happening. It's like going so fast, and also because like this is down here.
The lower one is a GIF that I just found.
No, you didn't remove. No, that's not the pixel I told you to remove. I
Oh.
wanted you to keep that red pixel. I wanted you to remove the yellow one that was down below, and like, so we see through it. We see through it, basically. Alright, let me look at this. This is a... Yeah, that's fun. This is a very rough kind of WebGen animator look. And when we get further along in this course, we're going to be doing more stuff like this and pushing things in that direction for sure. Nothing really stands out to me immediately. The timing's a little strange compared to like what would be a real walk, but I think I kind of like it. It has like this little kind of dreamlike quality. Like this is sort of a from the character's perspective kind of thing, where there's kind of like a slow distortion of time for their making their runs or whatever. Was this a study from something, or did you actually design this run yourself? This is a run cycle, by the way. This is not a walk cycle. We will be going to run cycles in the future, but that is still a really nice study there. So here's some game attack animation, kind of. This looks kind of like possibly referenced from Hollow Knight, or inspired by it. So the biggest thing, we might actually want to look at Hollow Knight's animation. See if we can find some good examples here. But here, let me see if I can find a run cycle Hollow Knight. I wish I had some animation from him handy to really pull from, but here we go. Well, there's a little bit of kind of his run poses, but like there's like the specific walk animation that the character does in the game. Oh, this character is sort of doing it. But the specific animation they do in the game, there's much more of a lean forward to the body, kind of. Like you could push the character lean forward to give them more of a feeling of forward momentum. And also the ups and the downs could probably be pushed a bit more. It's like two things that are kind of holding this this run cycle back initially, which is that the ups and the downs need to be more apparent, and the body could probably be leaned forward more. If you can get that in a .mov file, I could maybe do a draw over of it. But here, let's see, where's a good one to do critique of? Oh, this one.
Space.
Hey. All right. So let's just get that into place here real quick. Alright, so just get rid of that because it's a blank frame, I think. Alright, let's see. So I don't know what tools you're using to draw with, but I think something that would definitely help you is if you used thinner lines and drew in a larger size pad of some kind, or along a larger size drawing canvas or whatever, because it looks like that the drawings are a little stubby, so that it can be really, really hard to pull the shapes that you would want from the drawing space you have. So let's get like some of the basic shapes of the character down from one of the poses here. About like this, and then I'm going to kind of go with what you got on this frame here, which is sort of this egg shape kind of for the head, with the front mouth and nose off of it with kind of that. I won't worry about the hair for this right now. Oh yeah, Kale Bright. Yeah, Kayla Bright, I would recommend using Blender in the future. You'll get a lot better workspace to work with. Blender has a 2D animation template that would be really helpful for doing this. Hopefully your computer can handle it. So I'm trying to get like a sense of the points of articulation in this character. If I'm actually animating it, I'm going to be doing stuff a lot rougher and simpler, but I kind of want to get like a roadmap of their general articulation. And I sort of did that on that deer character that I was showing, that I'm going to be doing a demo of later. Let's connect up the hips here. Socket for the arm there. Maybe I'll differentiate this by color here. You do have like kind of a sleeve part here, but I'm going to do the the inside with the arm here. We'll keep the fist simple for now. Maybe imply a side plane there. Get a C curve for the neck here. So the basic mannequin of the figure can be something like that, and just throw this arm back in here. Get kind of a straight against curve thing, even though that she's got that sleeve there. Okay, so now that we got something in the ballpark to use as a model for posing, we can go back and troubleshoot through this. Turn it off real quick. And we'll do a frame by frame draw over real fast. Noting the problem areas that we're going to try to fix. Or if I don't get to fully fix them, I'll at least make a note about how they can be fixed. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to take a look at the feet to make sure the feet are working. Alright, so that's a little bit, that's definitely better from where I saw like the walks that you were doing earlier with the problems with the feet kind of stopping. I think you could probably maybe even raise the foot more off the ground, like about here. On the up. I think this is the up. So when you got this there, that's fine. And then, that's weird. Why is it not ghosting? Or why is the onion skin not working? There we go. So I'm gonna maybe get rid of that. Can even do this, like, see, her leg comes up off the ground and lifts up and even pushes back a little bit further. because of the angle of the leg here. If the leg was going straight down here, the bottom of the foot would be down all the way here. But when it swings over this way, it goes out more. So that kind of thing happens. Of course, her thigh is also pulling forward a bit, so that would probably influence the foot a bit to come forward slightly, but let's maybe measure the calf to make sure that the length connecting to the thigh is about right. So there we go. So what we want is kind of like a smooth arc of her lifting her foot off the ground, coming up and like it should be kind of like a flowing arc for where she like pulls her leg up and then makes contact. Let's see. So let's make sure that the calf is the right length. Okay. I'm going to change the angle of the foot, place the foot slightly, I think. So for that, I'm going to forego putting the calf in and maybe try to see how this tracks in an arc. I actually don't think this one is too bad. No, I'm going to trust you on this one and see how it works like this first. So maybe just fixing that one pose might create the arc that you might create the impression of the arc that I'm trying to go for with this for you. Maybe the heel could come out a little bit further. I don't think that will necessarily mess up the timing of the feet's movement back here. But we'll see. I'm okay maybe with the contact position stretching the leg a bit. I'm going to throw a transparency layer on her so we can evaluate this. Oops, wrong layer. There we go. Just kind of skipping her timing a little bit, but okay, so there. It's probably about where we want to loop it. Actually, let's see what the starting point is. We'll loop it at the starting, for where the starting point is. Right there. Alright, so it should be looped here. Alright, yeah, that's feeling a little better, I'd say. Let's take a look at the back leg. I think it's the same thing. This gets a little mushy right here. It's not too hard of a fix though. So we'll do a back leg for this. Quick back leg draw over. This is the big stuff, I would say. The first, start with the feet and get that solved. There's other issues going on that I can see with like, and most of the issues that I see going on here are like the secondary action, which is like the skirt and stuff, but I'm not too bothered by that right now. I think that mainly I would want to just address the feet first before doing anything else with this. The feet and the legs. So let's see here, that back leg. So I get what you're trying to go for here. That kind of like the pointy pigeon toe kind of thing here, with the heel coming up. Why maybe use like a big, slightly curved straight line, but mostly straight line, right there, curving into the foot. And her calf could even be bulged a little bit. It's kind of like that. And then the next frame, same thing that I did on the other one, like her, instead of bringing her foot up and forward completely, maybe like swing it back a little bit on a hinge. But you use measuring. I'm using my thumb and forefinger right now to measure the length of the calf right now. So the bottom of the heel would be about here. Something a little bit more along these lines. Would be my suggestion. And then there's nothing too horribly offensive about this pose, but I'm just bringing it forward like bit, maybe. Just make sure I keep the leg length right. Do that, and maybe shrink. Or no, rotate the foot slightly. The foot's getting a little small here. I'm definitely going to tool up this one. The passing pose, frontal leg. I'm going to trust the position that it's in. I'll just kind of touch up the drawing a bit. That actually kind of goes a little bit beyond the cycle loop I had. It goes out to here. So I'll just turn on the back layer again for the other leg, or the front leg. Gonna fix this real quick so that make sure that there's not any flashing between the frames here. I do notice that you have a 3-frame thing in here. Maybe add another in between there. You probably solve it. I'm not going to be too concerned with that at the moment. Oops. There we go. Alright, I think that's enough to work with for this demo. I will upload the movie of it so you can evaluate it frame by frame and take from it as you will. These are just like little tweaks that make what's happening here a little clearer and push some of the posing a little bit and push the heel back like on here, for example. So some of the things I do really like about this, by the way, is you have kind of like a circular motion on the up and down. That's good. I like that. It's really neat, actually. Like normally, like in like a basic walk, you just do up and down without kind of like any kind of circular motion like this. But on this one, you did kind of this feeling of sort of like a circular feeling on the upper torso right here. I think it might be happening on the whole body, but yeah, there's like this kind of somewhat, even though like there's kind of wonky things going on with the drawing, there's this there's like a underlying naturalistic feel there that I feel like if you were working in with tools that weren't fighting you as much, you'd probably get even better results than this. There's some stuff happening with the secondary action on the skirt that I could probably correct, but we're not going to worry about that right now because that'd be a little bit too time consuming, and I need to get to other people's things. So let's see here. So what was the name of the person who submitted it? It was KLR Bright. I'll make sure that saves. There we go. I'll just upload that to chat. There you go. Use that as you will. These are just suggestions for what you could do. So you can play with them. You could do something different from what I suggested. I also might want to give you the screenshot of the model drawover I did to initially study your character. I think that would be pretty good right there. So just screen grab that real quick. There you go. Yeah, you can use that as like a kind of a rough guideline model for maintaining consistency in your character, relatively speaking, and like you might want to even fix it even further than I did, because like if you notice, there's some differences between the two calves there. The back one is kind of you almost like you could maybe even use what I did with the calves there as a model for like when the calf is like pressed forward and the other calf is relaxed. The other calf that's making the contact forward has a relaxed calf, and the other one has like the muscles bunched up. The thighs are also a little bit off, like the knees are inconsistent from how I drew them a bit here. So just be aware of that. I just did like a quick impression draw over. I didn't really nitpick. Details like that. So bear that in mind if you use my tips as a model. All right, so we're gonna grab this, move it up here, and do the next person. So let's see what we got. The stick figure walk. You might take a look at that one. Yeah. I don't know what's happening there. That little pixel. No, I might have to talk. Yeah, you should leave it out completely. Like, as in, it should be blank and see-through. Like, we should be able to see the background through it. We'll go over that more after this, after class or whatever. I can show you what I meant. So I do like the really springy look of this walk here, or this run. So I don't have any major feedback on this other than like maybe mess with the timing some. And that would be like playing with it up to your own discretion. Whoops. So this little guy is going a little bit too fast there, but I would love to maybe take a look at him. If you can slow that down and get an MOV, we'll take more of a look at it. I may actually take a look at this, because I think there's some issues going on here with this one now that I look at it some more that might be worth going over. Hope this is the right file. Oops. Yep, no, that's the old one. I don't want that. Alright, what's the file called? Walk cycle 2. Okay. Wait, was it an MP4 file? Was that the issue? Yeah, it was an MP4 file. I need if you want me to do a demo, you need to upload a .mov version, so I can import it into Harmony. So we'll take maybe a look at like the Shaggy and the Realistic Walk next, which are both MOVs and examples of pretty successful studies, I would say. So. We'll take a look. Yeah, this guy's like I said, this is an example of a successful study, and I feel like whoever did this definitely learned something from it. And we'll do a quick little tooling up of the hips, bearing in mind the stuff we just went over of how the hips work from the front pose. It's not going to even take that much time to do this. We're literally just going to put an indication of where the hips will be tilting up or down, and the legs can be adjusted accordingly. And since the person I know that the person already has like a live action reference handy to refer back to, they can look for those hip tilts and make those corrections using that. Let's take this off. Let's beef this up in size and center it so I can get it nice in the middle of the page. Save a new version. Alright, so our big culprit right here for correction will be this. There's another one of these on the other side of this guy, but we're going to concentrate on how this one is going up and down for now. Oop, it's weird. Alright, so I'm going to maybe peg this one so that we can just slide it around without redrawing it. Let's get it about where it is normally here. It wasn't doing, it wasn't pegging it properly. That sucks. That's my bad. Let's make sure that it's doing this right. Okay, yeah, that's because I was grabbing the wrong control. Alright, now we got it. So let me just take a look at another cycle real quick. So the basic thing that you could use to address this is like when his hip's coming up, like it could probably be tilted a bit up. So you get like kind of this effect going on right here. Whoops. Or on the front or whatever. I'd want to look at the live action reference to see what he's actually doing. But like in terms of using this to design a better tilt for the hips, like my instinct is telling me like when it's up here you may want to push it up more so that the thigh is more raised off the ground a bit. Everything would probably still be in the same spot, it's just you'd adjust and account for the thigh being raised a bit. And then when it's down, you can really push, like how far down the thigh goes, basically. Or how far down the hip goes. So that, like, let's use these to kind of track it a bit. So his upper body is actually turning that way, but like the front of his chest is kind of, is counterposed to this. It's just that because it's facing this way, this is the angle that it would be at just about, which seems to be like this, but it's actually counterposing that because it's tilting. So if you looked at this from the front, it'd be something like that leg going back there, this leg going in front. We see more of the side plane of that hip. Meanwhile, the torso, the top of the rib cage would be tilted this way, kinda. But you want to look at your live action reference. I think that this reference actually shows how the walk looks from the front, so you can track that for yourself. So I don't know if I'll do a full draw over demo of this because I'd want you to go back and keep this stuff in mind if you look at, as you look at the live action reference. So I'll just do a screenshot of this for you to refer to and keep in mind. And you can look at some of the Richard Williams hip and shoulder tilt stuff. I would even maybe do, since the reference that you have has a front pose on it, I'm pretty sure, from the Endless Reference YouTube, I think that it would be a good idea for you to do a front cycle study of this as well. So let's see here. Yeah, I'll do a screenshot of this, and I think that will be a good reference point of what you should look out for. There we go. Thank you. You posted the reference for me. And I've studied from this reference myself too, so I know what it looks like. Yeah, you can really see the arms, shoulders, and also like notice what's going on there, like from the Richard Williams live action walk. Like he's really favoring leaning over on the left here, where he's not leaning over as much on the right, so his shoulder tilt isn't as extreme. One thing that kind of bugs me about these models, though, is like it's really hard to tell where the tilt of the hip is unless you really look for it, because of the like kind of leotard single color outfits that they're looking. If I were gonna film reference like this myself, I'd probably want color-coded outfits or outfits with bands on them, so we can tell a little bit more how the hips are tilting. A lot easier. But try to evaluate how you try to evaluate for yourself. Like for example, here there's a diagonal hip tilt about like there, I want to say, and then the shoulders are like very slightly tilted that way, from what I can see. Yeah, live action behaves in really weird ways compared to how we design things simplistically in animation. That is one of the reasons why walks are so, one of the many reasons why walks are so hard, because simplified cartoony walks, not as hard. When you start getting really complex with them, or like bringing in like bringing in the way they act with live action, it starts getting a little crazy. So, let's take a look. We're gonna take a peek at Shaggy, I think, next, of the Shaggy study that person did, and then I'll do a demo of that deer character that I'm working on. So let me see, what was the file name of the Shaggy one? Homework 3. Okay, cool. Feel free to type any questions you have in chat, or use voice if you were still able to talk. Somebody asked, I tend to, somebody, Ryuku-chan says, I tend to let the weight-bearing leg dictate the lift, so the hip would be higher only during the up pose, where the weight in the hip leans to the weight-bearing leg. Yeah. That's definitely good. That's definitely a good approach for sure. But there's a lot of different pathways to what feels like a natural walk in characters, and sometimes the tilts can be very, very different from like we saw in the live action stuff. They can sometimes run parallel to each other. So here's good old Shaggy. We'll put him in the center here in case I do want to draw over him, but I probably won't. So this is a fairly successful study of an existing piece of animation. This is, of course, Shaggy doing his iconic walk from Scooby-Doo. So overall, I'd say it's a successful study. I'd want to maybe look at Shaggy some more, the actual walk myself, to analyze it a bit. There is some stuff I see happening here with the shoulders kind of jumping around a bit, but I'd have to see what the original animation was to maybe the shoulders are jumping around kind of like that. One of the things I probably would have done if I was doing to study this is I would I wouldn't do the bell bottoms first. I would do like where his I would guesstimate about what his legs would be like under the bell bottoms first, and then I'd add them after. Because otherwise they look kind of flat if I don't think that through. There's a couple things like the line between his forearm and the back of his body here is getting really close. I don't know how close it was in the animation, but that kind of flattens it a bit. There seems to be some issues going on with the length of the calves and the thighs. Like it gets, like the back calf gets a little stubby on this frame, for example. See? I think that some of the stuff that I was showing off on the last demo. And also, like, this is kind of odd, where that front foot is off the ground, kind of, and then kind of slides down there. I need to see the actual animation, though. I mean, I'd say it's a successful study. It's just like there's little errors going on here with... It's kind of weird. Like his calf is definitely shrinking there when it comes up, see? And also his thigh seems to kind of hold in place there, see? For like about... It's not... This thigh isn't moving forward. But I need to see the walk. Yeah, if there's any way you could actually clip a loop of Shaggy's walk for me that we could take a look at later, maybe I can get to that before the end of this class. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new Toon Boom Harmony file. Whoops. Why did that window close? That's weird. Let's maybe put this one on screen a bit. Or maybe one of the animal walks. Alright. Let's start a new Harmony file. Run through setting up my scene real quick. And now I've got my image file for my reference. Hopefully it's not going to be too beefy of a file. If it is, I'm going to have to resize it a bit. So, get that. Everything gets hooked up in Harmony, and then I'll get my deer in the right spot where I need him. Okay, so first thing first, I basically have a contact pose model here on him. I'm not going to go into huge detail on them, and I'm just going to get like the basic shapes in, and so I can get stuff fairly in the ballpark, and I'm going to forego stuff like the ears and the tail and so on. Just need to get like the big stuff working first. We're adding like secondary and overlapping action. So maybe at least want to get like the eye here so I can judge eye level, kind of. Maybe the socket for the ear here. Maybe get like the halfway line through the head, so that comes out to the nose there. So I got like this line of action going through the body. Kind of the bean torso. They're structured like kind of an old school Mickey Mouse character, or an old school cartoon character. A little bit of Porky Pig in them, especially for their legs. Instead of a circle, I'm going with kind of this shape for the pelvis. And then there's the basic body, and I'll add a little C-curve for the neck, like that. The back of it pretty close to the line of action. Just add a little connection to the neck there. Arm socket. I probably will add the arms to this, just as a gauging point. I did save myself a lot of work on this walk design in that I won't have to animate the arms swinging. So now that we got this, I'm going to, on another layer, add the legs in so I can in a different color so I can differentiate them a little bit from the hips and the thighs, or differentiate them from the pelvis. So these legs are based on kind of like a simplified version of a deer's actual haunches. I was actually looking at some of the Bambi model sheets and studies that Disney people did, studying actual deer to use as a point of reference, along with actually looking at actual photos of deer to kind of get ideas for how the thighs and legs would be stylized and shaped, and how they would work. So for this, I would definitely have like, when I get to it, I'll be able to have like an overlapping action of the tail. These kind of crystalline floating antlers might actually be kind of like hovering off the head, and they might not move at a different rate. I think they might wind up being part of the head, basically. And the ears would definitely be secondary action, kind of bobbing up and down, or whatever. There's going to be another ear behind here that's going to be the same shape, but just flipped around. But I won't worry about that detail right now. I want to get the big stuff down first. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to do the same thing we always do when we design a walk. We're going to design the other contact pose, for one thing, and we're going to design the passing position and the up and the down. Now what makes this walk unique, aside from the fact that it's using animal legs, is there's a little bit of an attitude in this character. So I might want to play with that. I may do a basic walk for this, but I also want to see if there's an opportunity for me to push their attitude. And attitude walks are things you can really, really like get a nitty-gritty playing with. So let's see here. Get that. Oh yeah, there's a YouTube clip of the animator's survival kit of him showing off attitude walks a little bit on male and female characters. Like that. And how you can put like you can put basically any kind of attitude on any kind of character that you want. Flip around stereotypes or stylize different personality and stuff into characters. And one of the cool things you can do with attitude walks is you can change the you can change the breakdown pose to be something really wild. Like for this guy, I could do something like I could have him do like a mid-air hop on his walk cycle. Like he maybe has that kind of a deer hop. Like he's very, very deadly serious, but like he's still also a deer. So he does like, so when he's like walking normally, he has kind of like a sort of a deliberate step, but then he like hops upwards. And when he does, his legs kind of go into the pose of like the back haunches of a deer that would be kind of walking around or something. But that kind of hop might actually work better on a run pose, so I might not do that. I'll probably just do an actual deer walk if there's any traits of deer for this character for a walk. So there's other people who have, of course, animated deers walking and analyzed deers walking, and sometimes it pays to look at their notes. Here's a pretty nice little study of a deer by Ola's Animations on YouTube that I found just now. So there's kind of like slow, methodical, deliberate sort of feel to those haunches there. And the way that deers kind of flip their tails when they're walking around. Maybe something that I want to incorporate into this character. But I'm going to design my own. But in any case, it's clear that this character needs, like, the articulation of the hips kind of tilting up and down, and the hips turning left and right on the contact in the up, and the down positions. So anyway, the first thing we're going to do, straight off, is we're going to establish the other contact pose. To save time on this demo, I'm going to just flip the contact pose, probably. Like... in this case, it's literally just going to be just the legs that get flipped. So here, we'll put it here. Duplicate drawing. Oops. Then we'll make sure the Stuff here gets erased, because that is now the back leg. And this is now the front leg. And the hip would be tilted downwards on this side, probably. So somewhere about here, I want to say. Let's make a little note. Let the tilt there a bit, maybe. So when the leg's back here, that means we're going to see more of the front of the pelvis here and less of the back. This is going to be, the back is going to be tilting away from us. So that means we could even do, maybe adjust this a bit. And then this gets pulled forward a little bit. I'm just trying to get something in the ballpark here with some adjustments. So we see more of the buttocks here. We'd even see like the tail maybe sticking out here. So that means the upper body would I think on this character would remain fairly parallel, I would say, and most of the tilting would be happening in the hips. That's my judgment so far. So it'd be like reviewing him from the front here. Something like that. And then literally like this gets flipped. Flipped but then adjusted to be more on center, I would say. And remember that principle of the center of mass we were talking about? So this would be about the center-ish line. Like that. And so then it becomes a question of how does that influence the upper body? Well, when that leg is forward, this shoulder would maybe be a little bit more forward. I think it's about good where it is, right there. This would be maybe pushed backwards a bit. The arm kind of going around the back of the body. The torso is maybe maybe the ribcage is turned a little bit more towards us. Like that. Then on this pose it's turned away from us more. So it'd be on more on this side, and our center line would be more back here. Kind of like what we saw in Shaggy earlier. So I'm actually glad we had a look at that, because that actually gave me some ideas for this. That also might mean we might want to adjust the torso a bit, but we'll hold off on that for a bit. What we need next is the passing poses for both of these. I'm going to do a quick trace back on the head. Actually, I'm just going to copy the head. Head and the neck. Maybe the upper body. Actually, the whole thing. Right there. Let's copy that so I can kind of pose out about where the up would be. The passing position, probably be about here, I want to say. Passing pose on this, his legs would be, like his foot would probably be about here. Like at like a halfway point between these two positions. So we'll kind of rough in the leg here. Already looks like he's walking. So this is a good sign so far. So let's get the back leg in there. Maybe put it on a lower layer. Nope, that won't work. Need to bring up Richard Williams's walks real quick. See if there's some animal walk poses that might give me some cues to work off. Whoops. Get harmony back there. Okay. So the closest analog in the Richard Williams book is going to be the horse walk stuff. There's some of that is in this, but some that's been uploaded to YouTube. Like so. So that's what I'm after right now, this passing position on the horse leg. So we already got the up of the body right now. But now we need the back leg kind of. Whoops. Get that an underlay. Yeah, that works. So I'll model it a little bit after Richard Williams as a starting point. Not too sure about this. I might keep the hoof in the same general shape here. Maybe it should come up even more like that. Because he is doing a horse walk, but it is like a it's also part of a human walk. It's also partly a human walk. So there we go, I got that. For the first passing position. Now I want to make my second, which means I'm going to have to problem solve a little bit on this. Maybe something like that to start with, and adjust it a bit so it's not symmetrical to the... It's not exactly the same as the first one. And maybe push back a little more. That hoof a little bit up higher, slightly. And then this leg. Maybe gets adjusted just slightly down like that. And all this gets erased. Because it's the back leg now that's doing this. So let's see how this cycle looks now. I don't think I like this back pose very much. Oh, I didn't duplicate the drawing. That's an issue. No problem, I'll just copy paste this. Alright, now I can just redraw it, it's no big deal. Or actually, no, I need to do this. I need to go back. There we go. Alright, so we're back to this again. Just make sure I duplicate the drawing this time. I think the back heel can come up more. Like, come up more, and then I erase this and adjust. And this one will be a little bit more forward, I think. Alright, so the next thing I need is the down. I think that's working pretty good, so I'm going to go for the down. So the thing about horse walks is the down. If you find it real quick. The down is still making contact with the ground because that's actually like the bottom of the foot. That's actually the front of the foot. Is it if the heel is already off the ground, basically. So I'm going to have to kind of guesstimate where the feet position would be here, frame by frame. I'm thinking like, let's make some markers here about where I think the feet will be each frame. It's about there-ish. And I can use that as a guideline for this. Leg is going to be really kind of stretching back there a bit. Yeah, this is the down. So that means we're going to take this body. I can remember what layer it's on. Got this body. Bring it down a bit. Measuring about the general size of the different sections of the leg, so it's in the ballpark enough for the purposes of this test. I think that this is getting a little big here. Let's fix that. So that. Like this, and then this gets about this size. pretty nice. For passing pose, definitely. That works now. And then because we marked out where the feet are going to be, we know where the other foot is going to be on this. Maybe about here. Here, but bending down, I guess. Let's make sure I measure each section to get it right. Something off of that, but we'll come back to fix it. Let's make sure we get that. Okay, so this frame gets copy pasted about here, I think. Yeah. And then duplicate drawing, create a new frame. Now I adjust and erase. So this is going to be in front of us. We're going to see more of the rear here. I'm going to start as a mirror pose, basically, of the original. But then I'm going to modify it as I need to. There we go. Let's see how this looks when I turn it off the reference image. It does look like he's leaning a little too far forward for my liking. So I will want to fix that later, but I can adjust the body for that. Actually, I think what's throwing it off is like his ears kind of counterbalance his body a bit. So I think he'll look like he has more balance when the ears are on. So that's the down. Now we'll get to the up. So we get this copy pasted over into here. The up is going to be higher than the passing position, but not by much. So on this panel you can see, in this frame you can see that we're running into a little bit of an issue here with the balance, for sure. Like, because he doesn't have, because this character doesn't have like the front part of the foot here like that, it makes them look like they're a little bit off balance with those tiny little hooves. So maybe a solution to that would be to give them really big foot-like hooves like that. I'll leave them off for now because I want to keep going with this from how I had it originally, but that is something that I might want to try as a solution to give me more versatility for how I can plant this character's feet and have them look balanced. So on a horse walk, the up position is pretty close to like how you would expect a human position to be for the back leg. I'll put like a little bit of that in there. So that's good enough. We will copy paste this frame over here. And now same deal as last time. Erase the stuff that goes behind or in front or whatever. Oops. Create a mirror of the walk. There we go. He might be getting a little bit floaty on how high he rises up for my liking right now, but this is looking pretty good so far as a starting point. Let me go back and do more of an indication of where the hips are tilting on some of these. Back. That one's supposed to be the back, I think. Made another oopsie and I forgot to duplicate a frame, I think. That's what happened there. So now that I've seen this, I'm kind of strategizing about what I'll do for the rest of the body too. In addition to like fixes I'm going to make to the legs. but I kind of like the direction this is going. The up could probably be adjusted a little bit, but one of the first things I would probably do is I would go through and get like a cube on the pelvis for the tilts. I think something's going fucky is going there. Alright, so yeah, the legs are jumping sides here. They're not supposed to be doing that. I think there was I forgot to duplicate the frames shit going on here. Or they're in the wrong, yeah. So this one should be, that one should be 6, and that one should be 5, okay. This one's supposed to be in front, so we'll duplicate those. Which layer is this on? Oh, it's on the overlay. Yeah, so I'm going to do a Q&A section right now. If you want to ask a question, I'm going to turn on voice, and then we can do some Q&A right in the room right now. So turn on speak. You'll have to leave the room and rejoin real quick once I turn this on. I think it will be push to talk only though, but. Yeah, okay. If you want to ask a question in voice, leave the classroom and rejoin the room real quick, and it'll reset your voice. And Mama Puffs, yes, this chat is here for questions. I don't think they're in voice anymore, though. Alrighty. So, I'm gonna get a glass of water, and I can hear anyone asking questions. Type them in chat, or ask in voice, and I'll be able to answer any questions or feedback you have. Yeah, I enabled it to. I put it on push to talk instead of voice activity. You have to leave the room and rejoin for it to work. There you go. Alright, it should work now. Nope. Yeah, that's weird. Did you set it on? Did you set it on push to talk, like in your settings? Okay. Well, feel free to type your question in chat, and maybe someone can read it, or I can read it out loud. Oh yeah, you're twinning. Yeah, I was gonna do a draw over that. I don't know if I'll get time to do it. A draw over to really show you what I was talking about. But we can try to take a look at it. So twinning is what's going on here with those hands moving at the same time and parallel to each other at the same rate. What you would want to do is you would want to favor one hand over the other one. I would say in this case the screen right hand, which would be her left hand, of course. The hand that is closer to us, you should maybe favor some more. So like any time she's doing these actions and stuff, her screen right hand is slightly ahead of the other one. So like the other one kind of settles slightly later than both of these, for example. Like the animation's too symmetrical. You need to vary it a bit. The other input I would give is like, she looks like she's gonna fall over backwards, kinda here. You could fix that by widening her stance a bit. Like her pose looks okay here, but like she really looks like she's gonna fall over backwards when she's like this. Like her position would be more kind of straight on. Her body, if it were leaning up like this, would be more like here. I think to fix this, like maybe move the leg back to about, maybe move this leg about, plant this foot about like here to the right slightly. But yeah, twinning is a major. Twinning is like one of those things you want to generally try to avoid in animation. There's actually a website here that covers what twinning is, so I can show you an example. I think they give an example video here of why avoid it if it seems like unnatural. The whole thing is like has a pretty good explanation for what it is and why you should avoid it, or when you might not want to avoid it. I hope that that the link I just linked works in Discord chat. Let's see here. Oh, look, he has hand gestures, kind of like you did. Yeah, this is the same sort of thing. Like, literally, like this could be fixed by like favoring one of the arms over the other, and having that move into place sooner than the other. I wish that they gave an example of how to fix twinning on that page, but that would be very helpful. The philosophy of like trying to avoid twinning gets so crazy sometimes, though, that you'll sometimes see like characters blink. Two characters do eye blinks where one eye blinks slower than the other one, and it can sometimes make them look lazy-eyed. Because generally, when you blink in real life, your eyes are moving so fast it kind of appears they're blinking at the same time. But like if you go frame by frame on some Disney films and some Pixar films, you can actually see the animators. We're trying to avoid some. We're trying to avoid twinning so much that they actually made like Buzz Lightyear or some other characters look slightly lazy-eyed for a frame. Like not enough to necessarily destroy the animation, but it is a little odd when you look at it by itself. Another good example of twinning is this from Illusion of Life, and I think this might be Walt Stansfield's stuff. I forget what this is exactly, but this shows off how twinning in a pose can occur, like on Mickey here. Like you want to also vary up the pose and contrast different expressions of the hands and things like that. What you got on yours is actually not that far from kind of what Mickey's pose is, I guess, in terms of posture here. So you had the right idea. I mean, it's okay for the character to kind of have parallel hands and making that gesture. It's just that you want to vary the timing of when the hand moves into each of the poses. Alrighty, so the homework for this week is polish your walks. Polish your walks. I want you to polish the walks that you've been continually working on the last few weeks. We'll take one final look at them next week. I want you to get them to the point. I want you to get your walks to the point that that we could use that we could like compile them into the short film. They don't have to be completely perfect because I mean this is going to be student efforts. But I want to like see I want like the fruits of your labor, even if you're like a straight up beginner, of trying to correct and fix and improve on your walk. I want to see those next week, and we'll get them as far along as we can, and I'll just maybe do some demo corrections of some of them, and we'll try to get them. We'll try to get enough of the walks to the point where we can put them together for a little short film to show what people in this class have done. Which should be really fun. So polish your walks. Fix. Polish your walks. Straight on walk. And 3. Study an existing unusual character walk and try to put your own character on top of it. So this will be your 3 homework assignments for this week. You're not being graded on these. These are optional to do. These are just supposed to be prompts for you to try exercising this stuff throughout the week. But the first one, if you want to be included in the Ethan Becker short film that we're going to be doing. I'm going to be putting out a wider announcement so people not just in this class can maybe participate and submit their walks as well. But I want people to fix their walks as much as they can between in the next 2 weeks or so, and in roughly about 2 weeks we will put together a short film of everyone's walks.
So what if we didn't have a walk before this?
We've got plenty of time now for you to do a walk.
Okay.
1 week is easily enough to get your walk started, and then you can have another week to kind of get critical feedback on it and fix it. And I might go into overtime feedback for certain people to troubleshoot it if we can work on it. The walks shouldn't be perfect, but they should demonstrate enough of a understanding of like the principle of how a walk works to be included. Like there can be wonky stuff going on in it, but if it's like overall kind of working, then it'll be definitely included. Should be the walks should be 8 or 16 frame walks usually, but they can be on other timings too. Let's say 8 to 6 frame profile walk cycle. We might find a way to include some straight on walks or different types of walks too in the short film as like cutaway clips. But yeah. My homework this week will be to finish this deer because because the key poses from this are going to be going into a concept art thing for next week. Some of the things I'm going to do when I get further into this, I'm going to add a cube to indicate like the tilt of the pelvis here, kind of like that, for example. And I'm going to, of course, add the ears, the antlers, and the tail, and so on. And then, of course, we have the arms here. And I have some ideas for how I'm going to handle the arms. I have them turning back and forth along with the torso here a little bit. Maybe kind of shrugging the arms up and down. Those are going to be personal notes for me. So, without further ado, we're going to wrap things up here. And thank you all for coming. Yeah.